I'm Anthony Elmore, President and Founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. We at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association follow the teachings of the 13th century Japanese sage Nichiren Shonin. Shonin means priest. Today, our lecture is Japanese Emperor Shomu Honored, the Black Buddha, and Diversity. Now, in the Gosho, that is the teachings of Nichiren Shonin, there is a Gosho called The True Aspect of All Phenomena, and it reads, exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. You must not only persevere yourself, you must teach others. Both practice and study arise from faith. Teach others to the best of your ability, even if it is only a single sentence or phrase. Black people, please understand that the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu, and some other Japanese sects teach a racist Buddhism. We black people have a cultural relationship not only with Buddhism, but we black people have a cultural relationship with Japanese people. The first people to come to Japan were black people. Ancient Japanese history speaks about the Ainu people, who were ancestors to the Africans. Black people, please understand that the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, are racist Japanese who will not make black history inclusive of your Buddhist practice. What I want you to do, I want you to Google the name Dr. Alexander Francis Chamberlain. He is America's first anthropologist. Science teaches us conclusive evidence of the black presence in early Japan. In fact, Dr. Chamberlain names Sakanoye no Tamaro, Japan's first shogun, as a black man. I told my son about his black Japanese history, and a white Nichiren Shu priest tried to contradict this and says, oh, it doesn't exist. They do not want you to know black history and culture because they are racist people. When you read The Living Buddha, it's a book by SGI President Daisaki Keita. He writes that the Buddha was an Aryan. These Japanese are racist and they hate to admit black history in regards to Buddhism. There was Buddhism in ancient Africa 1,000 years before Buddhism was in Japan. My subject, Japanese Emperor Shomu Honored, the Black Buddha, and Diversity. One of the things that you would not get in the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, and from many of the Japanese who practice Buddhism, they are not going to make black history and these facts inclusive of your Buddhist practice. Please understand that we at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association want to teach you through education. We believe that Dr. Martin Luther King, who was educated on his history, on his culture, on the background of black people, he was able to take that history and take that culture and create an idea of having a dream where all men are created equal. We believe in cultural diversity, and as a Buddhist teacher, we want our young people to get an understanding of the history and to be upright young people and be the kind of person who can go out into your community and make a difference in this society. Now, I am not limiting my teachings against white people. I just do not believe many white youth are going to come to Anthony Elmore and respect me as an African American youth. I'm not sponsored by no big organizations, don't have any money, but we believe in honesty and integrity. Now, one of the things that we want to introduce to our youth who are studying Buddhism, how many of you know the word UNESCO? UNESCO is an acronym for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. The way we approach Buddhism is through UNESCO, or the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Please understand that if you're with the SGI, Nichiren Shonin, and the other Japanese Buddhists and many of the Asian Buddhist teachers, these people make it a point to extricate black history from Buddhism. Now, let's learn a little bit about UNESCO. UNESCO's aim is to contribute to the building of peace, the eradication of poverty, substantial development and intercultural dialogue through education. The sciences, culture, communication, and information. Other priorities of the organization include attaining quality education for all and lifelong learning, addressing emerging social and ethical challenges, fostering cultural diversity, a culture of peace, and building inclusive knowledge of societies through information and communication. One of the reasons why I am challenging the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu, and hopefully we can educate some of our young African Americans, is because these people are misleading African Americans. And as an African American Buddhist teacher who has for over 45 years of Buddhist practice, at least you can come to me and I can tell you my experience. One example is, I am married to a beautiful young Ethiopian wife, and in 2006 I took her to Chicago, to Todaiji Temple, our Buddhist temple in Chicago, and the Reverend Maratha married me and my wife. And I was a sincere Nichiren Shonin Buddhist. Reverend Maratha, I remember asking him about the Todaiji Temple in the ancient capital of Nara, Japan, and I asked this Buddhist priest about the image, this great image. And this priest told me he don't deal in racism. Now, here we got the largest indoor Buddhist statue in the world that comes from the ancient Japanese capital, a icon that is noted and respected by UNESCO, and you have a Japanese priest who says he don't want to deal with it or don't want to talk about it. In fact, every Japanese priest who I asked about this image, they all said they didn't either know anything about it. Specifically, my last priest was Reverend Iwaki. And Reverend Iwaki told me he did not know anything about the largest and the first and the most iconic Buddhist statue in all of Japan, and this man is a priest. Let's get into our lecture. Now, the Nichiren Shonin writes in the Gosho about this. Now, Nichiren Shonin mentions Todaiji Temple 11 times in the Gosho. Now, there is a Gosho called the Selection of Time. And this is what Nichiren Shonin writes about this temple, even though the Nichiren Shoshu priest did not want to deal with it, even though SGI don't want to deal with it, but this is what Nichiren writes about the Todaiji Temple and Emperor Shomu. Nichiren writes, in the selection of time. In the reign of Emperor Shomu, that's 724 to 749, the 45th sovereign, the Flower Garland school was introduced to the kingdom of Silla by a priest of that state called Preceptor Shinjō. The administrator of the priests Rōben inherited his teachings and in turn introduced them to Emperor Shomu. He also helped construct the great image of the Buddha at Todaiji. Now Nichiren says he also helped to construct the great image of the Buddha at Todaiji. Nichiren Shonin knows about this black Buddha. This is Japanese history. Now, let's talk about the Emperor Shomu. Now, he had a reign from 724 to 749 in the Christian area. Now, there were attempted coups that was going on, but now, following the Confucius thought that the natural order and social order should reflect each other, Emperor Shomu tried to be a virtuous ruler. In fact, what he did was he lived his Buddhist practice, and he was a kind and generous man. We talk about health care. This emperor put health facilities all over Japan so the people could be cared for. He even engraved Buddhist passages and put temples all over Japan. He actually had what is called a theocracy because he made Buddhism a state religion, and he did all he could to bring Buddhism to Japan because he felt that it was his duty to bring peace, love, diversity, and everything that's associated with the great Buddhist teachings to the people of Japan. And he was an emperor. He created what is called the Nara culture in Japan, to where everybody was studying and educating themselves and really into Buddhism. Now, in regards to the Black Buddha, in 743, Emperor Shomu announced plans to build a huge statue of Vakana, the cosmic Buddha. In his announcement, the emperor said, quote, "The benefits of peace may be brought to all in heaven and earth, even animals and plants sharing in its fruits, for all time to come." Now, he also said, at least the great construction of the great Buddha began in 743. The 53-foot high bronze statue was cast in 8 stages. It included 500 tons of ornamental made of copper, tin, and gold, lead and gold. The casting process used up all the copper in Japan. The chief sculptor, Nika no Kimo, was the son of a Korean immigrant. During the bronzing phase, gods at U.S. Hachiman Shrine and crucial were consulted. Eventually, the shrine of Hachiman was built next to the completed Tōdai-ji to protect the great Buddha. As the casting was completed in 749, Emperor Shomu gave up the throne to become a Buddhist priest. Now listen to this. Approximately 2.5 million people, that's almost half of the Japanese population, contributed to the construction of the statue and temple. This is the largest bronze and gold statue in the world and housed in the largest wooden building in the world. Now, can you imagine that this being a black Buddha, if this temple of these people did not have a knowledge of what the Buddha looked like, or what Shakyamuni looked like, somebody would have said something before they expend all of their resources of gold. The country almost went broke. They put so much money. He allowed everyone to contribute to this great Buddhist temple. And in this temple, what we find, ladies and gentlemen, we find black Buddhist history. We African Americans can at least go to Japan, to UNESCO site of education and learning, and we can learn and see a black Buddha. I would think that the Emperor Shomu has a better knowledge and better access to knowledge and history than a Daisaki Keita or a Nichiren Shonin High Priest, or even the people at Risho University who don't want to admit about a black Buddha. But what we have archaeological and historical evidence of this temple, what this priest and what this emperor did. Now, the first chief of the temple, he was a Korean monk. He's who solicited donations and recruited workers. The work was backbreaking, in some cases deadly. The statue in the temple required the work of plasterers, quarriers, masons, carpenters, cabinet makers, tile makers, salt, everybody. And now, the Great Buddha Hall was finished in 751. Now, monks could be ordained in Japan instead of traveling to China. Upon the death of the emperor, many of his personal belongings were put in this temple. They provide evidence of the cultural richness of the Nara period and mark Japan as the Eastern Silk Road. It was Emperor Shomu who put this large black Buddha into Nara, Japan, so we all could see this. And what we have today, in 2015, we have Japanese like the SGI, Nichiren Shonin, and Nichiren Shu, who have extricated all black history out of Buddhism. Now, there was a description at the Todaiji dedication ceremony. The great Buddha at Todaiji Temple was constructed in 752. The eye-opening ceremony was attended by visitors from the Asian continent. 17,000 attendees included monks and nobles from Japan, as well as dignitaries from China, Korea, and India. Of course, the reigning Empress Koken was there. So was her father, the retired Emperor Shomu. Shomu played an important role in the dedication as the person most responsible for the building and the statue in temple. He held the paintbrush at the statue's eyes and painted. This rite was seen as an invitation to the spirit of the Buddha. The ceremony sent a message to people and attendees about the power and stability of the Japanese government. It also demonstrated the emergence of Buddhism as a state religion. So this statue was so important. What we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a syncretic integration of Buddhism and Japanese culture. And I'm proud to say that a black Buddha, because the Buddha Shakyamuni was a man of African descent, the Emperor Shomu was able to make this inclusive. Now, we also have a record of what he said. And this is the translation, what he said at the inaugural ceremony. He says, having respectively succeeded to the throne, through no virtue of our own, out of constant solicitude of all men, we have been ever intent on aiding them to reach the shore of the Buddha land. Already, even the distant sea coasts of this land have been made to feel the influence of our benevolence and regard for others. Yet not everywhere in this land do men enjoy the grace of Buddha law. Our fervent desire is that under the edges of the three treasures, the benefits of peace may be brought to all in heaven and earth, even animals and plants sharing in the fruits for our time to come. We take this occasion to proclaim our great vow of erecting an image of Lochana Buddha in gold and copper. We wish to make the utmost use of the nation's resources of metal and casting of this image, also to level off the high hill on which the great edifice is to be raised, so that the entire land may be joined with us in the fellowship of Buddhism and enjoy in the common the advantage which this undertaking affords to the attainment of Buddhahood. It is we who possess the wealth of this land, and is we who possess all power in the land. With this wealth and power at our command, we have resolved to create the venerable object of worship. The task would appear to be an easy one, yet a lack of sufficient forethought on our part might result in the people being put to great trouble in vain. For the Buddha's heart would never be touched if, in the process, calamity and bitterness were provoked, which led unwittingly to crime and sin. Therefore, all who join in the fellowship of this undertaking must be sincerely pious in order to obtain the great blessings, and they must daily pay homage to Lochana Buddha, so that with constant devotion each may proceed to the creation of Lochana Buddha. If there are some desires of heaven in the construction of this image, though they may have no more to offer than a twig or a handful of dirt, they should be permitted to do so. The provincial and county authorities are not to disturb and harass people by making arbitrary demands on them in the name of this project. This is be proclaimed far and wide, so that all may understand our intentions in this matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have is a great Buddha Emperor Shomu, who created the Buddha. The Buddha was black. This is history, this is culture, this is archaeological, anthropological, historical evidence of a black Buddha. It's in Japan. The SGI, Nichiren Shonin, and many Buddhist sects do not want to deal and understand that there is a black Buddhist history. It's not about a black Buddhist history, ladies and gentlemen. It is about freedom, justice, and equality. There's nothing wrong if historically the Buddha was a man of African descent. What is important is that we, who practice Buddhism, become evolved humans through practicing the Buddhist teachings. I am Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association.
I'm not like the Tin Man, skipping on down the Oz, trying to find the yellow brick road, trying to find himself a God. I'm not like the Scarecrow, searching for a brain. I said a little suture, and for the wisdom that I gain. I'm not like Dorothy, who's trying to get back home. I practice the Lotus Sutra doctrine alone. Who questions the great and powerful Oz? I love Oz, I am the God. Who questions the great and powerful Oz? How dare you? I love Oz, I am God. It's the way to make your karma go. It's the way to make your karma go.